Let's cultivate our motivation. Before any activity, we begin by taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in order to direct our mind in a certain way, to know what path we're following. And we create the bodhicitta after that to know why we're following that path. And when we approach the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha for refuge, we do so the same way a sick person approaches a doctor. So the Buddha is like the doctor, we're the sick person suffering in cyclic existence. So we approach the doctor with respect for their knowledge and their kindness, with humility, knowing that we need help. And then we request the doctor to help us. The doctor diagnoses our illness and prescribes the medicine. So in this case, the Buddha diagnoses our illness of cyclic existence and prescribes the medicine of the Dharma, all the stages and paths on the way to enlightenment. And having the prescription isn't enough. We have to take the medicine and take it correctly and continuously. But sometimes we get confused how to take it. And so there are nurses who help us. And so in the same way, the Sangha, the Arya Sangha who has realized the teachings, are like the nurses who help us take the medicine. But it's only through our taking the medicine that we get cured. If we have resistance to taking pills, or eye drops, or tinctures, or whatever kind of medicine it is, and so we don't take it, then we continue to suffer. So in the same way, if we have resistance to the Dharma, and we don't practice, then there's no way for us to get out of cyclic existence. So there's a cooperative effort going on between us on one hand and the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha on the other. And the whole purpose is to help us get out of cyclic existence and to become a Buddha ourselves so that we can be of the greatest benefit to all living beings. And so with that in mind, we share the Dharma today. I think this analogy is a good one. It's a standard one that's found in the scriptures. And I remember during one Vajrasattva retreat, one young man was here. And when we were sharing our experiences at the end of the retreat, he said that the big thing for him was that he realized he was the patient. Yeah. And I think that, for a lot of us is a big thing to really kind of say, I'm a sick patient. I'm sick in cyclic existence. Because so often our attitude is, I'm a really together person, and my life is going well, and things are great, and okay, there's a few problems, so, I go to the doctor, and I'm the consumer, the doctor's there meant to serve me, and I say, Doc, I want this, and the doc gives me what I want, and there we go. But my life is fine and dandy. Yeah. And so, sometimes when we're feeling well, that's the attitude we have towards the doctor and the illness. But, when we really see what cyclic existence is, then we really feel like we're the patient that we really needs a doctor, There's a certain kind of humility that comes like, I'm not going to get cured of this by myself. I need somebody to help me who's an expert. And so with that attitude, we go to the Buddha, for a refuge and request teachings. And we don't go as a consumer does, hey, I want this, what do you got? We go with, I'm suffering and please help me. So it's a really different kind of attitude. But the more we have that kind of humble attitude, the more receptive we are to taking the medicine. Yeah. So the Buddha knows the disease, he knows the medicine, gives the prescription. Yeah. And then often what we do is we, it's like us, we go and listen to teachings and take lots of notes. And then just as you get the medicine from the pharmacy, well, sometimes you don't even get the medicine, so sometimes you don't even go to the teachings. Yeah. Like, I'm too busy, I'll get the medicine later. Sometimes you go and you get the medicine from the pharmacy, and then you put it on your nightstand, and it sits there, and you don't take it. And so the same way we, get ourselves to teachings, we take notes, we put them down, and they sit there and collect us for the next, 5 eons. Okay? It's true, isn't it? Sometimes we do that. Notebooks full of teachings, never study, never go through and contemplate the things. And then sometimes we do take the notebooks out, but then our notes are not so clear. Yeah, and we need some help. It's like, oh, this doesn't make so much sense. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. So that's like, when you finally get around to taking the medicine, it's like, well, which pills do I take in the morning and which in the afternoon? And, so then you go to the nurse who helps you figure out what, your prescription is and what you're supposed to do. So we go to the Sangha and they help us figure it out. Yeah. But then when sometimes you look at it and okay, it's 3 blue pills in the morning and 2 pink at noon and 3 purple in the evening, and you go, those blue pills are too big, I can't take them. And those pink pills, I don't like that color pink. They're not going to cure me. And those purple pills, they have a very strange shape. I don't think that they're really right. Okay? So in the same way we go, oh, I don't like this medicine, It's too big, I have such a small throat, I can't swallow a big pill, and this other medicine looks scary, and, this other one, I don't know, I just don't like. And so we throw up all of our resistance, and then we go do something else besides take the medicine. And then we wonder why we still don't feel well. Yeah. And then the nurses come around again and kind of check up, yeah, and and encourage us. And they take the big blue pill and grind it up and mix it in with some applesauce. And take a spoon and go open wide, zoom. And then we, take the applesauce with the medicine, and, it tastes okay, and we start to feel better. Yeah. So, yeah. And the pink pills, we didn't like that color, so the nurse put some chocolate on top of it. And, well, we like that color, that tastes good. Yeah, so the same way, then the Sangha helps us take the medicine. And they're there for us to encourage us if we get cold feet. And then, of course, if we take the medicine, then we get better. Yeah? So if we practice the teachings, then our dilemma, our illness of cyclic existence, and its causes, ignorance, anger, and attachment, they all cease. So I think it's quite a good analogy, and it explains the things well. And if you think of all the different attitudes a patient can have, and then see in Dharma practice all the different attitudes people can have, and then it helps you kind of figure out what a good approach is, how to take it. Okay. So we've gotten to the part in the Buddha's life where he's attained full awakening, and then he proceeds to travel on foot all around North India, giving teachings to whoever, wants to listen. So he's not proselytizing, but he's also not being stingy. And he's not afraid to say what he believes. It's quite interesting now in the West. Sometimes you meet people who they don't want to say they're Buddhists. I mean, they've even taken refuge and go to teachings and all sorts of things. But when somebody at work says, "What religion are you?" they say, "Well, I go to some Buddhist classes." But they don't want to say, "I'm a Buddhist." And sometimes their reasons for this are, I'm sick and tired of isms and ists, and, that's why I left the religion that I grew up with, because I was tired of this kind of emphasis on making an identity and belonging to a group, and, all the kind of restriction that belief leads to, and all the corruption in the institution. And so I don't want to be any religion. I'll just study the Dharma. Okay? So I can certainly understand those people, when you've felt betrayed in some way or another by the religion that you grew up in. Then you generalize that to all religions. Why not? One thing, one bad experience, blame everybody. This is what our mind does. Yeah? One bad experience, and we generalize it to everything. But, I can certainly understand that. I wasn't real hot on religious institutions. I grew quite cynical about them. But then I also realized at some point that being cynical isn't a very helpful attitude. That when you feel let down from something, to fall into cynicism as your defense, it's kind of a defense that walls you off from the rest of the world. It's like instead of saying, "I was hurt," you say, "Oh, well, it's all just kind of screwed up anyway, so who wants to be a part of it?" Yeah, you know that cynical attitude? Yeah, so I was in that for quite a number of years. The result was hedonism. It's true, isn't it? When you're cynical about everything, then you either get really down, or you just go to the hedonistic extreme, because it's just, it's all screwed up anyway, so might as well enjoy. And neither of those are, very happy mental states. Yeah. So I think at some point, to make peace with the religion that we grew up with is very important. To make peace with religious institutions. Some people are very surprised when they find weird things going on in Buddhist institutions, kind of like, well, wait, that's what they were doing in the old religion. Buddhism now should be perfect. I mean, the Buddha was perfect. Shouldn't the religious institutions also be perfect? Well, the Buddha, okay, is perfect, and the Dharma is something absolutely amazing that you can't change. It's precious. But religious institutions are created by human beings, and human beings have ignorance, anger, and attachment. Don't they? Yeah, so to expect everybody that we see as representative of a religious institution to be perfect is a little bit unrealistic, I think it's fair to expect them to be trying as best as they can, but sentient beings' best has a really wide variety, doesn't it? Best as they can for some people is really low level compared to what other people's best is. But to see, institutions are created by human beings. They're doing the best they can. And we're not taking refuge in the religious institution. This is very, very important, okay? My view on religious institutions, and institutions in general, okay? This is such an interesting way to give a talk. This and the roofing, and I'm having this whole, scenario going on outside that you guys aren't seeing. I'm waiting for him to drive in here and scoop me up in the thing, and I'll wave to everybody.
Nice photo.
So my take on institutions in general is that the only purpose of an institution is to help sentient beings. And so if you have a group of sentient beings that wants to pursue a particular purpose or particular aim, then gathering together and having a group is very helpful. I mean, we're social creatures, so we gather together as a group. And groups, the group energy becomes an institution, but the whole purpose is to benefit all the individuals in that institution and everybody else as well. Yeah. So the purpose of the institution is not to self-regenerate and continue the institution going. And too often in our society that becomes the purpose of the institutions. Forget about the sentient beings they're supposed to serve, and let's just take care of the reputation of the institution. Yeah. And that, I think, it's natural that sentient beings do that, but that's not the real purpose of institutions. I think they're really designed to help a group of people achieve a certain purpose and to benefit those people and other people. And outside of that, there's no reason to have an institution for the sake of having an institution. Okay? But when we take refuge in the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, we are not taking refuge in any Buddhist institution. Okay? Like I said, institutions are created by human beings. Yeah. Human beings and institutions are not going to lead us to enlightenment. The Dharma is going to lead us to enlightenment. The Buddha, the fully awakened one, will. The Sangha, who has realized emptiness, they'll help us. The institutions are aids. Okay? So, and I think it's very important to differentiate that. I know I struggled with this so much in my practice, because at first nobody said to me these are two different things. So I mixed up Buddha, Dharma, Sangha plus the institutions. Yeah. And then when things happened in the institutions, or when individuals in institutions did things that I didn't think were very good, then, I got very confused. But eventually, through a lot of struggle with this, I realized that my refuge is something completely different than any religious institution on this planet. My refuge is here, and it's a direct line to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Okay? Institutions do this, institutions do that. If they're helpful, support them, because we need them. We can't be an individual, As an individual, we can't achieve very much. Yeah, like I was talking about at the beginning of the course, one person can't make EML happen. Yeah, and it can't be one person on the side of the Abbey. It can't be one person of the people coming to EML. One person alone. We don't have the karmic energy. We don't have the skills to make something happen. So, groups are necessary. Group, energy is really important. But let's not confuse it with our own internal meditation and the realizations that we're trying to develop on the path, and our own internal relationship with the Buddha. Okay? So when I think you're in touch with that, then if you say, I'm a Buddhist, it means I have refuge in the three jewels, and my refuge is something very personal. And, saying I'm a Buddhist doesn't mean that you have to be a representative of an institution or join an institution or whatever. Okay, is this somehow clear? Yeah? So separate the things. Now, I'm not trashing institutions, because like I said, you need them, to achieve certain purposes. Yeah? Because we need the group energy, and we need the group support, and we need a group of people together to request a teaching. And we need a group of people together to support what's going on when a teaching is occurring. So we need groups, but and those are our Dharma friends, and those are people that support us, and who we support, and who we have compassion for. But when there's problems in an institution, don't make that question. Don't let that make you question your refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, because they're two different things. Is this kind of clear to people? Yeah. Okay. And in the same way, your relationship with your teacher and your relationship with your teacher's organization are different. Yeah, they aren't the same thing. So, my teacher had a huge organization. One of my teachers did. Others of my teachers didn't have any organization whatsoever. There was just a group of students, And other teachers had something somewhere in between. Yeah. But to see that my relationship with my teachers is purely a Dharma relationship, a heart-to-heart one. And, I have these group connections with other people. But I'm also aware that all my Dharma friends, we all have problems, don't we? We're all not enlightened, not all of us are enlightened beings. And so not to expect my Dharma friends with whom I study to be, perfect. Like I tell people, not all Buddhists are Buddhas, including us. Yeah. I find it somewhat interesting. Sometimes people identify me with the Buddhist institution, and I find that quite interesting because, when I'm in the Tibetan community, I'm like the last person anybody's going to identify with, among the Tibetans as representing the institution. First of all, I'm an Inji, so. Can Injis really practice as well as Tibetans? And second of all, I'm a woman. And third of all, I'm a nun, and what do nuns know? So I find it very humorous sometimes when I come here and people identify me with the institution, and then all their authority issues with religious institutions get played out in relationship to with me, and it's like, you got it wrong, I'm not a representative of this institution. From the Tibetan side, I'm not. From another side, maybe, I am. I'm ordained, so, I represent something bigger than myself. Yeah. So it's very interesting how this is, because from one perspective you are represented, from another perspective you aren't, another one you're somewhere in between. So the basic thing is you just do your practice and forget about what other people think about you. Do your practice with integrity, with consideration for others, help when you can, and some people are going to criticize you, and some people aren't. And it's like that anywhere you go, isn't it? We keep trying to find the perfect group of people or person who's never ever going to criticize us. And that's one of the first conditions when you fall in love, is you don't criticize me, I don't criticize you. How long does that last? Yeah. Okay. But, wherever we go, people are going to criticize, so we, at some point, have to get over that. I don't know how I got on that tangent.
The skits.
No, I wasn't thinking about the skits. Anybody have questions or comments about this? Yeah.
What is an
Inji? Inji is a Westerner. Okay.
So when you first started the Abbey, I think it was almost a natural tendency for most of us to put you and the Abbey as sort of synonymous.
Yeah.
And then I remember maybe about a year and a half ago, you reminded us that the Abbey now is the vision of the whole community and the community at large. But it's taken me some time to actually say that to be true for myself. Because that, along with that, even though the institution is sort of this abstract, there's a certain level of responsibility and commitment that comes to something that's so precious as, founding something that will benefit others. But I know that there's still, I think, a general feeling that when people think of the Abbey, they immediately put that with you. And then knowing that the community has gotten so much bigger, and the support is at large, so the Abbey now, for me, gets to be this kind of large thing that, it's not so much the buildings, but it's more of a bigger context. But so how do you still participate in an institution without sort of solidifying it into a concept where then things get really kind of fun?
Keep meditating on impermanence and dependent arising. Yeah, it's the only way to do it. Yeah. And I know at the beginning people just kind of unified me in the Abbey, but the thing is, if the Abbey's going to exist for 3 countless great eons, it can't depend on me. Because I'm not going to be here a whole lot.
Which you also said from the very
beginning. Yeah. And also the growth of the Abbey doesn't just depend on me. It's depending on the karma, past karma of many people. All the people who have the potential to benefit, all their karma is involved. It's not just my karma. And for the Abbey to grow, it's dependent on many people's energy, not just my energy. Yeah. So we shouldn't reduce things in a simplistic manner. All of us are involved. Uh-oh. No, but we are all involved, aren't we? Karmically, with our energy. So, yeah.
The institutions seem to be the container for the teachings, and sometimes the Dharma is expressed as just anything that reduces afflictions, and like when the Lamrim Chenmo talks about the greatness of the
teachings.
Greatness of the teachings, and showing that which one was it? Do you remember the last one of that?
That they're not contradictory and that you not to abandon the Dharma.
Yeah, that's the abandon the Dharma. And so, like, that's, been taught as, from people I've heard it taught as, that's, abandoning any religious teaching and talking badly about any religious teaching. Mm-hmm. And so without the institutional structure of Buddhism, like, where does the, is there still a border between religions in your view? If any religious tradition can eradicate afflictions, then it could be Dharma. So without the institutional structure of Buddhism, where does the kind of what is in the Buddhist institution Buddhist as opposed to what's in other religious institutions?
I don't think it's a matter so much of what's in one institution and what's in another, in terms of what is one set of teachings and what is another set of teachings. Yeah, although I'm not sure I really understood your question well. So I don't know. Do you want to reword your question, or does what I said help?
It does. I guess I had been thinking particularly about, I think when His Holiness was teaching in D.C. and he mentioned one of Nagarjuna's treatments of the vehicle structure, and he talked about one of the vehicles as being, I forget exactly what, but it seemed like it could apply to any religion. It wasn't like a Buddhist specific vehicle, but it was a Buddhist vehicle in this context. So it kind of made me think any practice that helps to improve concentration, that helps to purify the mind stream, all Dharma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if something helps people to create virtue, we've got to respect it and honor it, don't we? Yeah. And actually, the Sanskrit word Dharma wasn't limited to Buddhism. Buddhist teachings were Buddha Dharma, and then the Jains were Jain Dharma, and then Christian Dharma. Okay? So it's, we often just say Dharma to refer to the Buddha's teachings, but actually it can be a word to refer to any set of teachings. Yeah. But I think, His Holiness always says, my religion is kindness. And then he says, all the theology comes later. That all, are just natural, basic common sense about what is beneficial and what is harmful. And the Buddha's description of, what is the mind and rebirth and all these kinds of things, that has nothing to do with metaphysics. It has nothing to do with, stories about this and that and the other thing. It's just kind of practical stuff. And, how to work with your mind, how to be a sane, balanced human being that contributes well to society. That's kind of the bottom line, but that takes a whole lot of effort, and we're not even talking about future lives. Yeah. But, just doing that is a huge undertaking. And then thinking about future lives and our human potential and stuff like that. I mean, in some ways, it's just basic common sense. So, it's not the sole property of the Buddha. We have to remember the Buddha did not create the Dharma. And the Buddha did not create Buddhism. Yeah. The Buddha only described what he knew from his own personal experience. He just described it. He didn't create. He doesn't hand out rewards and punishments. He doesn't start institutions. Although you could say, the Sangha started, the monastic community started under the Buddha. Isn't that a religious institution? Well, yeah, and it has a set of rules. And if you want to belong to this club, you've got to follow these rules. And if you don't want to follow the rules, then, you're not part of the club anymore. So in that way, you could say, okay, he started a religious institution. But the purpose wasn't, to have his own group of followers that trotted around after him going, his whole purpose in anything he did was to help people get out of cyclic existence. Yeah. So, the Buddha, when we're talking about emanation bodies, your favorite, the Buddha can appear in any form to benefit others. So the Buddha, could manifest as Jesus, he could manifest as Moses. If there's a way to benefit sentient beings with a certain kind of mentality, the Buddha can manifest in that form for the benefit of that specific group of sentient beings. Yeah. So, when you see it from that viewpoint, then, there's a real unifying basis for religions. And it's human beings that get stuck in isms and ists and all this kind of stuff. We're the ones who create identities out of groups. Okay. Anyway, I wasn't going to talk about that. I was going to talk about some of the teachings that the Buddha gave to different people as he was traveling throughout ancient India. And when you really see this, and you read the different sutras and the Pali Sutras, the Mahayana Sutras and everything, you really see what an amazingly skillful teacher the Buddha was. He really taught according to the mentality of his audience. And so in that way was able to benefit everybody that he spoke to. And so it really shows. Okay, so there's, I thought to read you some passages. So here's how he talked to some lay followers, okay? So there was one lay follower called Digajanu, and he went to the Buddha, and he said to him, "We are lay people, enjoying sensuality, living crowded with spouses and children, using kasi fabrics and sandalwood, wearing garlands, scents, and creams, handling gold and silver. May the Blessed One teach the Dharma for those of us, for our happiness and well-being in this life, for our happiness and well-being in lives to come." So he isn't even interested in liberation and enlightenment, Teach us something that helps us in this life, and because, thinking about future lives was common in that culture, teach us something that will help us in future lives. So the Blessed One, the Buddha, said, there are these 4 qualities, Digajanu, that lead to a lay person's happiness and well-being in this life. Which 4? Being consummate in initiative, being consummate in vigilance, admirable friendship, and maintaining one's livelihood harmoniously. And what does it mean to be consummate in initiative? There is the case where a lay person, by whatever occupation he makes his living, whether by farming or trading or cattle tending or archery, or as a king's man or by any other craft, is clever and untiring at it, endowed with discrimination in its techniques, enough to arrange and carry it out. This is called being consummate in initiative. Okay, so in other words, however you're earning your livelihood, whatever work you're doing, whatever your occupation, you're responsible, you're skilled in it, and you do the best you can to fulfill your duties. In other words, you have a good work ethic. You don't just show up late and leave early and spend most of the time by the tea counter, or wander around doing nothing, or eat snacks, or, do as little as possible, or, like this. You really take your responsibilities and your work seriously. Okay? So that's something that helps you in this life and in future lives. And what does it mean to be consummate in vigilance? There is the case where a lay person has righteous wealth, righteously gained, coming from his initiative, his striving, his making an effort, gathered by the strength of his arm, earned by his sweat. He managed to protect it through vigilance with the thought, how shall neither kings nor thieves make off with this property of mine, nor fire burn it, nor water sweep it away, nor hateful airs make off with it. This is being consummate in vigilance. So you earn your livelihood, and whatever you have, you take care of it. Yeah? He's not saying be stingy, but he's saying you take care of it, you don't waste it. Yeah? Because you want to protect either kings, i.e. politicians, or thieves making off with your property, or fire burning it. So you don't leave your money hanging around, you don't leave your credit card here or there. I was staying with one nun once, and doing the laundry afterwards. There were dollar bills floating around, and I was telling her she was laundering money. So we need to take care of things like that, not be careless, and not waste what we have. So fire doesn't burn it. The water in the laundry, in the washing machine doesn't sweep it away. Nor hateful airs make off with it. This is another thing. So often you spend time creating wealth, and then your family comes and tries to cheat you out of it, or makes you sign on the dotted line so that they get all the money. And my parents would tell me stories about what some of their friends' children did. It's disgusting how a child could be like that towards their own parent, and so craving of their parents' wealth. So, so being vigilant about that. And what is meant by admirable friendship? There is the case where a layperson in whatever town or village he may dwell spends time with householders or householders' children, young or old, who are advanced in virtue. He talks with them, engages them in discussion. He emulates consummate conviction in those who are consummate in conviction, consummate virtue in those who are consummate in virtue, consummate generosity in those who are consummate in generosity, and consummate discernment or wisdom in those who are consummate in wisdom. This is called admirable friendship. In other words, you're a lay follower, so you choose your friends well. You don't just hang out with any old person. Yeah. So you choose your friends, people who are virtuous, people who you want to be like. You don't make your best friends people who you don't want to be like. Yeah. But people that you respect, you engage them in discussion. So you look for people who have convictional faith. Yeah. People who have virtue, people who are generous, people who are wise. And those are the people that you make as your friends, that you hang out with. Yeah? And I think this is something important when you meet the Dharma. Some people, everybody goes through some kind of stage of dealing, or not dealing with, but how their friendships are changing because they met the Dharma. And sometimes, you realize people you've been very close to for years, aren't consummate in virtue, in faith, in generosity, in wisdom. Yeah. That they're nice people who you hung out with and you had a good time, but now your values have changed and you're looking for different qualities in people because you want to be different. And so your old friends don't have the qualities that you want to emulate now. Yeah. And then there's a period where you feel kind of uneasy. Yeah. It's like, well, I really loved all these people and I don't want to see them as enemies now. They aren't horrible people. I don't want to just throw them out because they aren't Buddhists. Yeah. But on the other hand, you look and you say, well, they're still drinking, they're still drugging, they're still womanizing, they're still doing all this stuff. I'm not so sure that they're the best people for me to hang out with. Yeah. And then you go into issues of loyalty. Oh, if I'm no longer friends with them, if I distance myself from them, then I'm being a bad friend. I'm not being loyal. But if I keep hanging out with them and doing the same things we used to do, I'm going to go back to being and doing what I did before, because that's what we all used to do when we got together. Yeah. We had one young man come here, and he was desperately trying to, stay clean. He had been so into drugs for many years. Got clean a little bit before he came here, stayed clean the time while he was here. But when we said to him, when you go back, you're going to have to make a new set of friends, because your old friends are going to want you to drug with them. And he said, no, they won't. I'll tell my friends not to let me take drugs, and they care about me, and they won't let me take drugs, And he maintained this. My friends won't let me take drugs. And I said, well, so-and-so is a drug dealer. Oh, because he had told me before this friend was a drug dealer. Oh, no, he's not really a drug dealer. He just sells to a few people outside his close circle of inner friends. And so for everything, there was a reason, because at one point he said, those friends are all I have. And I think that was the bottom line. He only knew those people. They're all I have. And we kept saying, you have to make new friends if you go back in that circle. Because what did you do with your friends every time you got together? Well, we got loaded. So you're going to go and be with those same people, and they're going to be getting loaded and you're not? Oh, yeah, I can do that. Really? Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm a little nervous, but, I can do it. Well, it didn't take long. He was back using drugs. Yeah? Just because he was hanging out with the same people again. And he wrote us this one quite sad email, kind of saying, can I come back? I'm really, kind of a mess here. And Zopa told him, first you get clean, go to a drug rehab program, and write to me, to the abbess, and explain your situation. And we haven't heard from him. And it's really sad, But the point I'm getting is, we become like the people that we hang out with. And so there is this kind of tension that happens when you're getting into the Dharma and you're changing your priorities and your values. And you're seeing that your old friends aren't. Yeah. And so then it's like he was, well, but they're all I have. They've been my friends for years, and I'm going to be disloyal, and what are they going to think about me, and who will I be friends with, and if I don't do what they do, then they're going to think that I'm being prudish. And this is the top one. If I don't go drink and drug with them and go do, whatever it is they're doing, gambling or whatever. If I don't go do that, then because I'm a Buddhist, they're going to, and they think I'm being really prudish, they're going to look down on Buddhism. So for the benefit of Buddhism, so that they don't have a bad image of Buddhism, I've got to go do those things when I'm with my old friends. Right? Can't tell you the number of times I've heard that one. Okay? But it is uncomfortable. And I know, do some of you want to talk about it? Some of the people who've gone through that experience of, Yeah.
One of the things for me with those close around me was once I started studying and kind of changed my worldview, then just the simple thing of after the end of day of work, coming home and griping about all the things that the people did that weren't helpful, and just that process. And when I stopped that, and the others around me didn't, that they kept with that, it was so painful because I knew I didn't want to, look at it that way. And I would try to tell them, let's, look at it a different way, and then they'd get mad at me. So it was just really uncomfortable. And it was kind of on some levels, a simple thing, a very common occurrence in many places, many homes, that was really painful. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. Because I saw how it pulled me back right into it. I could not do that and maintain my practice. They were opposites.
So what did you do? How did you handle the friendships? Or what happened with your
Well, I was a lot quieter. I tried to generate some kindness for the space they were in. At first I tried to change them. And of course, you know what that was. that doesn't work at all. So I did that for a while. Then I dropped it. Then I was quite sad, and I didn't say a whole lot and tried to listen. And that didn't affect my mind very good either, and I ended up changing the people I was around. And that's what I did. And I had to work with that loyalty thing, because that was a big thing in my family. No matter what happens, you stay loyal. And so I really had to work with, why am I holding that? And what, that's like a wrong view that I had to set out.
Anybody else want to share? Yeah.
Sure. When I first started saving insects in family home or at friends' houses, it was met with complete silence. And then you feel like you're on stage, right? So everyone's watching you go over with the cup, with the paper. So that was pretty embarrassing for a while, but I just kept doing it, and pretty soon you hear, and then, your family and friends pretty soon, they just accept you, if they love you, they accept you and they might, be inspired by it. So my sister was telling me something very interesting. Last year she was in the medical clinic and there was a number of bees in the clinic. And this one young South African doctor saw my sister go over with a cup and a piece of paper. And I guess the whole clinic was sort of like... And then he called her the, what do you call her? Bee whisperer. The rest of the week. So, you do things and you don't know if it's making an impression. And at first it's met with huge judgment. But, people start thinking about, I don't have to kill that fly or wasp. And then the other big thing, at least for my family, because everyone is a social drinker, and also the teachers that I hung out with when I stopped drinking years ago, it was like, again, sort of, and so people would say, oh, well, they'd offer you one drink, and thanks, I'm going to have some juice, and, well, maybe you'd like this instead. It's still all alcohol? And then after a few minutes it'd be, well, surely you'd like some of this. No. And so it took a long time, and people felt uncomfortable, and sort of like I was judging them, I think that's how they felt. Now you're too good for us, that kind of thing. But again, people settle down after their initial reactions, and it's just sort of like commonplace, and they carry on. But I think the seeds are planted for choosing different behaviors when we behave in a different way.
Often people tell me when I go to social events I have to drink, otherwise everybody's going to think I'm weird. And so many people tell me that sometimes I think at social events nobody really wants to drink, but they're all doing it because they think the other people are going to think they're weird if they don't. Anybody else? Yeah?
Well, I remember when I first stopped smoking weed, and one of my friends, was very adamant about me smoking, so he kept asking me to and passing me the bowl and everything. But after a few months, I think he got used to it. And most of my other friends, because, when smoking weed is usually just passed around the circle, and whoever's in the room, and so people would still pass it to me, and I would just pass it on. No one even really paid much attention. And then I think a similar thing happened when I stopped drinking. People just didn't even really notice, and people would still offer me drinks, but I would just decline without saying much of anything, and it would just be fine. And so the thing that happened, though, internally is that it got very boring, and I kind of got annoyed a lot of times at just the kind of waste of time that we were doing. But I hung out with that same group of friends after I actually started drinking more after I stopped smoking weed, and hung out with the same people for maybe 3 or 4 more years, a while. But it really got to be quite a drag. I think actually it was it was all for myself, but I got into a little rut for a while. But in terms of my friends' reactions, it was all quite accepting and somewhat not even paying attention to it. And I remember once, in regard to bugs too, some of my friends were, for some reason, there was a whole bunch of ants outside, and they're taking hairspray, a lighter, and killing them. And it was very weird. And I just started I didn't really say much, but I just kind of took them, I took a piece of paper or something and started moving them out of the way. And then one of my friends said, "Oh, I didn't know you cared. We'll stop. It's okay." And yeah, they didn't even really think about it. For them, it was just something to do because they were bored. They didn't think of them as beings, I don't think. And so I did just have to see someone that did.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can have influence that we didn't even think we were having. Uh-huh.
My mother asked me a question, and she's really interested about Buddhism, but not interested about Buddhism. So now that she's older, she's decided to go back to religion, and she had a problem with confession because she's Catholic. And so she came to me and asked me what I thought about confession. And so I explained to her that this is something that we also had in Buddhism, and that this is how we did it. Because she was afraid of actually confessing to the priest. She didn't feel uncomfortable. She felt uncomfortable doing that. So I kind of explained to her the view that, in Buddhism, when we confess to the Buddha, we confess to ourselves, and we kind of make the effort not to do the action again. And somehow that comforted her, the fact that, that is something that a Buddhist practice regularly. And she was actually able to do it. She was actually able to go to the priest and confess, and felt okay about that. That was a really good experience.
Yeah.
I was going to say on the issue of loyalty, it's interesting that we think that loyalty sometimes means just going along with people or letting them do whatever they want to do. There are people I haven't spoken to in years that I feel very loyal to. We're not connected, but if they called me out of the blue and really needed something, there would be no problem to help them out. But it doesn't mean I have to participate in the same things that they do. So I don't think we have to go down that, if we reframe what loyalty is, we can avoid that, because it was something I went through too in some aspects.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That sometimes we think loyalty is you do whatever the other person wants. Yeah. But that's not really what loyalty means. Yeah, good point. Maybe we should talk about that in the discussion. Yeah. Yeah. Because loyalty is an issue. One of my Tibetan friends, Thupten Jinpa, says Westerners have no loyalty. Yeah? Because he's talking from a Dharma perspective and how people relate to spiritual mentors. He was talking not in terms of friendship, but in terms of hanging in with a spiritual mentor and continuing a practice and, sticking with something over a period of time. Because he's seen many people go, just kind of bouncing around. And So it's interesting. And one way you could look at Westerners and say we don't have much loyalty. People change spouses, change partners, change jobs. People don't have a lot of job loyalty now because the corporations aren't very loyal to their employees and just kind of don't treat them very well. So in one way, loyalty is really declining in the society. In another way, we have certain loyalties to friends and different things, and sometimes we stick with something longer than we should. Sometimes we leave too soon without really, hanging in there and seeing if it can be worked out or, coming to some resolution. So this thing of loyalty and, what does it mean, and all of this, it's one that's changing in our society. The social fabric and expectations are changing. And it gets confusing. Okay, I was going to talk about all these other things, but I didn't get there. And what does it mean to maintain one's livelihood harmoniously? There is the case where a layperson, knowing the income and outflow of his wealth, maintains a livelihood harmoniously, neither a spendthrift nor a penny pincher, thinking, thus will my income exceed my outflow, and my outflow will not exceed my income. Just as when a weigher or his apprentice, when holding the scales, knows it is tipped down so much or has tipped up so much, in the same way the layperson, knowing the income and outflow of his wealth, maintains a livelihood harmoniously, neither a spendthrift nor a penny pincher. Okay, and it goes on like that. If a layperson has a small income but maintains a grand livelihood, it will be rumored of him, this clansman devours his wealth like a fruit tree eater. In other words, somebody who shakes more fruit off a tree than he can possibly eat. Yeah. If a layperson has a large income but maintains a miserly livelihood, it will be rumored of him, this clansman will die of starvation. Mm-hmm. But when a layperson, knowing the income and outflow of his wealth, maintains a livelihood harmoniously, neither a spendthrift nor a penny pincher, thinking thus will my income exceed my outflow, and my income will not exceed my income will exceed my outflow, so I'll save some, and my outflow will not exceed my income. So you don't spend more than you have. Okay, so the Buddha's giving very good financial advice here. Yeah, it would have saved Americans a whole lot of misery. Yeah, it's good financial advice, isn't it? Yeah, that your outflow doesn't exceed your income, and that you always save some. And so in other sutras he goes on and he recommends, that you use, I can't remember exactly what it was, a quarter of your income for your family and a quarter for reinvestment in, what you're doing, and a quarter to give away as, as generosity, and another quarter or something, I forget what it is. But, in other words, being practical, not being a penny pincher, not lacking generosity, and not being a spendthrift who doesn't know how much you have and how much you're spending and doesn't care, and then winds up in huge credit card debt and, wonders why you're having problems and all of that kind of thing. So it's very good practical advice, but, you see in our society, people have so many problems managing money, and spending way more than they have, and then it having really bad repercussions. So, there are these 4 drains on one's source of wealth: debauchery and sex. We have one supporter of the Abbey who's just gone through a whole thing about that. Debauchery and drink. We had another one who did that in terms of drugs. Debauchery and gambling. I have a friend whose parents are doing that. And evil friendship, evil companionship, evil camaraderie, hanging around the wrong people. Just as if there were a great reservoir with 4 inlets and 4 drains, and a person were to close the inlets and open the drains, and the sky were not to pour down proper showers, the depletion of that great reservoir could be expected, not its increase. In the same way, there are these 4 drains on one store of wealth: debauchery in sex, debauchery in intoxicants, debauchery in gambling, and then evil friendship, evil companionship, evil camaraderie. And by evil, the Buddha doesn't... Evil's a tough word in English. We think of that Satan with horns. But what Buddha, when he means evil, is unskillful, unwholesome, and unvirtuous, something like that. But you see the same things 26 centuries later are what bring people to ruin. Same 4 things. Okay. Oh, and then the Buddha goes on describing these 4 in terms of the positive things. So what does it mean to be consummate in conviction? There is the case when a disciple of the Noble Ones has conviction, is convinced of the Tathagata's awakening. Indeed, the Blessed One is worthy and rightly self-awakened and consummate in knowledge and conduct, well gone and expert with regard to the world, unexcelled as a trainer for those people fit to be tamed, the teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. This is called being consummate in conviction. Okay? So the person who was not consummate in conviction, what did he do? That was initiative. There's conviction. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't match up. That's my problem. Okay, so being consummate in conviction is one way for virtue. So it's really, having a conviction in the Buddha's qualities and the teachings. Yeah. And then the second one is being consummate in virtue. There's the case where a disciple of the Noble Ones abstains from taking life, abstains from stealing, abstains from unwise and unkind sexual conduct, abstains from lying, abstains from taking intoxicants that cause heedlessness. This is called being consummate in virtue. Then generosity is the next one. So what does it mean to be consummate in generosity? There is the case of a disciple of the Noble Ones, his awareness cleansed of the stain of miserliness, living at home, freely generous, open-handed, delighting in being magnanimous, responsive to requests, delighting in the distribution of alms. This is being called consummate in generosity. That doesn't mean you give away everything you have, but it means that you're not holding on to it with fear. And what does it mean to be consummate in wisdom? There's the case where a disciple of the Noble One is discerning, endowed with wisdom of arising and passing away, in other words, the wisdom of impermanence, noble, penetrating, leading to the right end of suffering. This is called being consummate in wisdom. And so these are the 4 qualities that lead to a layperson's happiness and well-being in lives to come and in this life. Okay. So if we had more time, I would go on and read some passages from other teachings that he gave to other groups of people, because he taught outcasts, speakers from other traditions, the devas, the different heavenly beings, his relatives, his child, his stepmother, his brother, okay, and so all different sorts of people. So some other time. Any questions? I think, yeah.
It would be really interesting to hear what he had to say to his family. Can you sum it up, just a little taste of it?
Okay. Well, he talked to his family really according to what they needed to hear, and so his this one I think is very cute. This is the one I'm thinking of. Okay, so here's how he talked to his brother. Okay, it's a little bit long, but okay. So the Buddha's in Sravasti at Jeta's Grove on Anathapindika's monastery, and at that time Venerable Nanda, the Buddha's brother and son of his maternal aunt, because he was raised, his aunt became his stepmother. Okay, who had become his brother Nanda had become a monk. Okay, so Nanda told a large group of monks, "I don't enjoy leading the holy life, my friends. I can't endure the holy life. Giving up the training, I will return to the common life." So he wants to disrobe. Then a certain monk went to the Blessed One, and on arrival, having bowed down to him, sat to one side, and he told the Buddha what Nanda said. And the blessed monk told that monk, "Come, monk, in my name call Nanda, saying the teacher calls you, my friend." And so the monk went off and called Nanda, and Nanda came and went to the Buddha. Okay, and then the Buddha said to him, "Is it true, Nanda, that you told a large number of monks, 'I don't enjoy leading the holy life, my friends, I can't endure the holy life. Giving up the trainings, I will return to the common life'?" So first the Buddha checks if what he heard was true. He doesn't assume that it was true. He asks. And Nanda says, "Yes, I did say that." And the Buddha says, "But why, Nanda, don't you enjoy leading the holy life?" And Nanda says, "Lord, as I was leaving home, a Sakya girl, the envy of the countryside, glanced up at me with her hair half combed and said, 'Hurry back, master.'" Recollecting that, I don't enjoy leading the holy life. I can't endure the holy life. Giving up the training, I will return to common life. Then, taking Venerable Nanda by the arm, as a strong man might flex his extended arm or extend his flexed arm, the Buddha disappeared from Jeta's Grove and reappeared among the devas of the heaven of 33. Okay, so he took Nanda by the arm, and the two of them went to that deva realm, okay, to that heavenly realm. Now, at that time, about 500 dove-footed nymphs had come to wait upon Sakka, the ruler of the devas. And the Blessed One said to Venerable Nanda, "Nanda, do you see those 500 dove-footed nymphs?" And Nanda goes, "Yes, Lord." And the Buddha said, "What do you think, Nanda? Which is lovelier, better looking, more charming? The Sakya girl, the envy of the countryside, or these 500 dove-footed nymphs?" "Lord, compared to these 500 dove-footed nymphs, the Sakya girl, the envy of the country, is like a cauterized monkey with its ears and nose cut off." She doesn't count. She's not even a small fraction. There's no comparison. The 500 dove-footed nymphs are lovelier, better looking, more charming. The Buddha says, then take joy, Nanda, take joy. I am your guarantee for getting 500 dove-footed nymphs. Okay. And then the Nanda says, if the Blessed One is my guarantee for getting 500 dove-footed nymphs, I will enjoy leading the holy life under the Blessed One. It's a nymph is like what's like a fairy or something, and then dove feet, are considered very delicate or very beautiful. So these women in the heavenly realm of the 33 were just gorgeous, Okay. So then taking Venerable Nanda by the arm, as a strong man might flex his extended arm, or extend his flexed arm, the Blessed One disappeared from amongst the devas of the heaven of the 33, and it reappeared in Jeta's grove. The monks they say that Venerable Nanda, the Blessed One's brother, son of his maternal aunt, is leading the holy life for the sake of nymphs. They say that the Blessed One is his guarantee for getting 500 dove-footed nymphs. How is the Blessed One the guarantee? Because he's going to teach him to practice virtue, and by practicing virtue, he's going to create the cause to be born in this realm of the 33 gods with all of these nymphs. Okay. Then the monks, who were friends of Venerable Nanda, went around addressing him as they would a hired hand and a dealer. Our friend Nanda, they say, is a hired hand. Our friend Nanda, they say, is a dealer. He's leading the holy life for the sake of nymphs. The Blessed One is its guarantee for getting 500 dove-footed nymphs. So they're kind of making fun of him. Then Venerable Nanda, humiliated, ashamed, disgusted that the monks who were his friends were addressing him as they would a hired hand and a dealer, went to dwell alone, secluded, heedful, ardent, and resolute. He in no time entered and remained in the supreme goal of the holy life for which clansmen rightly go forth from home into homelessness, knowing and realizing it for himself in the here and now. He knew birth is ended, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There is no further rebirth for the sake of this world. And thus Venerable Nanda became another one of the Arhats. So the Buddha was so skillful, wasn't it? It's like he got Nanda, got his attention, and, Nanda wants to keep practicing, but then when he went back with all the other monks, his friends were making fun of him, kind of, come on, you have the opportunity to gain liberation and you're chasing after 500 dove-footed nymphs. And so he felt ashamed of himself. This is the good kind of shame. Okay, he felt ashamed of himself. And so he went in seclusion and did his practice and eliminated all the defilements, to prevent liberation, and became an Arhat. It's a nice story, isn't it? So that's one example of how the Buddha taught his relatives. Yeah. Okay, shall we dedicate them? Or did you have a question from before? Yeah, are you? Yeah. Okay, I will dedicate. Due to this merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore.